Okay, I'm going to walk you through some of these Excel problems, and hopefully you'll get, well, you're going to understand why this is a whole lot easier than doing it by hand. Excel is a powerful calculator. Well, the first thing is you open the Excel file in Canvas, and you'll see something like this, or you may see there's 3 tabs down the bottom. Maybe one of these other tabs will open up. But we're going to start with the first tab that says Algebra to Excel over here. And the first thing you need to do is enable editing here. Otherwise, you can't type anything in. So you need to always hit enable editing. And so read the instructions, convert the given equations to Excel, and complete the table of values using cell referencing. Graph the one equation that is linear equation. Format the 2 decimal places. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to take this equation, this algebra equation, and convert it into a table of values. Here's our different inputs. These are kind of arbitrary. And we're going to find our outputs. So we could do this if by hand, of course. We could go 3 times 0, exchange 0 for x, and go 3 times 0 is 0 plus 4, so the output here should be 4. And let's do this one. We could say, okay, this is 3 times 2. You put an equal sign in, it'll always give you the answer, right? All formulas start with an equal sign. 3 times 2, exchange 2 for x, plus 4. And we get our answer of 10. Now, the nice thing about Excel is that I only have to do the first cell here, B4, and it'll automatically do the rest. So let's watch how I do this. I'm going to go equals, the output equals, that cell B4 will give the output. This is the formula, equals 3 times x, A4, plus 4. So once I had that, I'm going to highlight the cell. I'm going to go to the bottom right corner, and I'm just going to drag it down. And I can format this to 2 decimal places by highlighting the cell with this highlighter, going over into the middle up here, and here's moving the decimals one way or the other. So there's 2 decimals as it says. Now I'm going to do this one. And there's a little trick to it because you have an x squared, and I'll show you how to get that. But you're going to go equals 2 times, there's my input x, but x is being raised to, that's a caret, it's above the number 6, shift above the number 6, squared, plus 3 times, and you have to use the times, and you can just click on this or type it in, 3 times x plus 2. And so if I did that properly, I can just drag this down with the black cross in the bottom right hand corner. And sure enough, 2 decimals, there's still zeros, but there you go. Now, if we're going to raise something to a power, here's how I'd raise it to a power. Let's say we want to take 3 and raise it to the power of 2. I got to put an equal sign, right? Equals 3 raised to the power of 2. 2. That would be 9, right? And so that's how you're going to do this one. You're going to start out with an equal sign, equals 100 times 1.4 raised to the power of the input. And you're going to click on that cell and drag it down. Now I just want to quickly show you how to make a graph. You want a graph of the linear equation. One of these three is linear. Let's graph this equation here. To graph it, I'm using the white cross. That's the highlighter. I'm going to highlight all my cells there, the input and the output. And then I'm going to go up to Insert here. Probably go to a recommended chart. And they're recommending, I'm going to use a line chart. This one here, scatter chart. And click OK. Now there's my chart. So you want to title it. The title is probably just 2x squared plus y equals 2x squared plus 3x plus 2. You can do that by clicking on it. And you want to put in the axes. This axis is the x-axis, or the input, and this axis is the y-axis, or the output. To get that, you go over here, click on the plus sign if you have it, and put in axes titles. Click that, and it gives you the axes titles. Then you can click on the axes titles and put in either the input or the output where it belongs. This is not a linear equation, so you can eliminate this table of values from making a linear equation. So this is the second tab at the bottom called Bike Trip, and the instructions are: assume you are taking a long bike trip, and we're calculating how far you will travel based upon a speed of 9 miles per hour, right there, and 8.5 miles per hour, which is right there. So we're going to make two table of values for this problem. Use the formula distance equals rate times time to complete the table of values. Format the 1 decimal place, graph, and label the axes. So some students might be tempted here, because we're only going to do one cell, right? They might be tempted to go, because this is the distance, so we need to find the distance. We're given the rate and we're given the time. So it's going to be rate times time. So it equals rate times time. Now this is not going to work, and I'm going to show you why, okay? It'll work for the first one. But if we drag it down, it's obviously not working here, right? You can't travel 2 hours at 9 miles an hour and go 0 miles. So something happened. So I just want to show you how to correct this. You need to use cell references because you need to use this number. But you don't, and this cell, E2, you don't use the number. That's not cell referencing. So the problem is that in this one here, this is fine. We have E2 times B5, or E2 right here times B5. That's correct. But here we have E3, which is here, times B6. Now the B6 is correct, but I didn't want E2 to become E3. So how do we stop that? And we do that with cell referencing. And here's how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to clear this off. I'm going to go equals B2 times E2. But I'm going to go on my keyboard now and press the F4 key. And you see what it does? It puts different dollar signs in. The dollar sign I'm going to use is that one, a dollar sign before the E. And you can type this in instead of using the F4 key. It's just easier to use the F4 key. I get $E, $2. What that does is that makes this cell a constant. It means it will not change when you drag it down or across. And so now I can finish that off. And just a hint, I'm making graphs again. I'm just going to highlight with the white highlighter my inputs and my outputs. I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go to a recommended chart, and the one I like is this one. Click on it. Okay. Now you can move this graph around like this, right? And now you want to hit the plus sign, and you want axes titles. So you want to title this, this, and this. Obviously, this you can title like bike trip. You just got to figure out, is this going to be hours, time in hours, or distance traveled? Which one is time in hours and which one is distance traveled? You need to be able to do that. Okay, then you're going to basically do the same thing here, only you will fill across instead of filling down. So here's the third tab, the third file that you need to do, called drive time. And it says the instructions are your summer vacation involves traveling from West Michigan to Maine, a distance of 1,140 miles. Determine how long the trip takes given different average speeds provided. So what we want to do is find the time that it takes in hours if you have to travel 1,140 miles, and these are your different average speeds. So we have the equation D equals RT, distance equals rate times time, but we need to rearrange that formula because our output is now time, not distance. So I'll do this, explain how to do this. So we have our equation, distance equals rate times time. And in this equation, this is the output, and these are the inputs. But we need to rearrange it because our output is time. So we need to rearrange this for time equals. So how might I do that? And if you answer divide both sides by the rate, you would be correct because that is 1, which cancels. So I get T equals the distance divided by the rate. And that's what we'll use in our Excel file. Okay, so I used the formula and put the hours in here. You should be able to reproduce what I have. These are the correct answers. Now to find the time in hours, this is what I'm going to actually do because it's a new function we got to use. I want time in hours like 22 hours, and this will be 48 minutes. That's what your answer should be, and I'll put the answers in. But this one I'll do. So I can't really round 22.8 because it'll round to 23. What I use is a function called the integer function, int. Recall what an integer is. An integer is the positive and negative whole numbers. So I want the integer of that number, which will be 22. And now I can just run that all the way down. And so now I need the time in minutes. The time in minutes will be, first I got to find out how many hours or what's the leftover between these two, and then convert those hours into minutes. So I'll give you a start here, equals this minus this, and then you're either going to, now you have, in this one you have 0.8, right? But that's hours. I need to convert these hours into minutes. How do you convert hours into minutes? And I will let you think about that, and I will put the answers up, and so you see if you can match it. And then you can hand it in. So I changed the fractional part of an hour here to minutes, and I'll let you work on doing that. But these are the correct answers, so you can match them. As far as the graph goes, you're going to highlight these two areas. And the title of the graph is going to be, these are going to be the inputs on the bottom axis, and these are the y-axis. These are the outputs. And you can figure out a title for that, and then you can hand it in.